I don't know. Let's get it back.
Are we ready? Thank you, Dennis. Whenever you want to start. I got 6:50. I call this regular meeting of Monroe Lake Council to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Clerk, call the roll, please.
Mrs. Moore, here. Mrs. Thompson, here. Mr. Morris, Mr. Bittner, Mr. Shaboo,
here.
Mr. Lunder,
Here.
Mr. Johnson.
Right. Has everybody had a chance to review the minutes from the October 24th, 2023 council meeting? Do we have any corrections or comments? Motion for passage?
Seconded.
Motion made by Mrs. Thompson, second by Mr. Shaboo for passage. Call the roll, please.
Mrs. Moore,
Aye.
Mrs. Thompson,
Aye.
Mr. Shaboo,
Aye.
Mr. Lunder,
Aye.
Clerk, do you have any correspondence this evening?
I have no correspondence tonight.
Members of council this evening, do you have any correspondence for this evening? Hearing none, we'll move on to administrative and department head reports. Good evening, Mayor and Safety Director, Mr. Eva.
Good evening, Mrs. Moore, members of council, public here this evening. First off, I want to thank the residents for passing our charter renewal levies for police, fire, and roads, along with our levy for the Lake Overlook Beach revetment project. I've been in contact with Congressman Dave Joyce's office, along with State Representative Dan Troy's office, concerning grant funding for the Lake Overlook Beach project. Both offices have responded back. Mr. Joyce's office requested a brief narrative on the project, which I have submitted. Mr. Joyce's office will submit a request to the Congressional Research Service, CRS, and will keep us updated on what they hear back. Mr. Troy's office has sent over a project worksheet, which I will send back to try to get money in the capital budget to address the erosion. I was in contact last week with a website developer to redesign our website. This company has redesigned Willoughby and Concord Township's website. I talked to Mr. Rose, who's in Concord, and checking with them, they paid $37,000 in 2017, and the annual website maintenance and hosting is $3,000 a year for this development. Our annual Field of Cruiser event will be this Saturday, November 18th, from 4 to 7 p.m. We will be collecting non-perishable food items, along with funds for our annual holiday shopping with our local children. The fire department report for October, there were a total of 133 calls for service. There were 30 fire service calls, 103 rescue EMS calls. Of those 103 calls, there were 22 calls for invalid assist. There were no calls for an overdose requiring Narcan. Department training in October, EMS drills were presented by UH Lake Health. The topic was behavioral emergencies. Department shift drills for the month of October. EMS drill was Stop the Bleed. The fire drill was community outreach. Congratulations to the fire department personnel celebrating their service anniversaries in October. Firefighter Husted, 9 years. Firefighter Passenger, 5 years. Firefighter Trick, 1 year. Also, as far as our administrative director, Mr. Neff, his last day was November 2nd. I am looking to revise the job description, and we should have that posted later this week, for administrative director. That concludes my report.
Law Director, Mr. Lyons, good evening.
Good evening. Since we only have 4 members here tonight, can't pass any legislation because it takes 5 to suspend the rules so that it is considered. There are some items that are on third reading, but they've been assigned to committees, so I don't think that you can pass those either. I see that there's a presentation by the Summer Development Group about their proposal, and they're certainly welcome to give that. Nothing that council can do to pass that or to move it forward. The only thing that council can do to move it forward is that they can pass a motion to set a public hearing, because this does involve zoning change. There has to be a public hearing, and that notice has to be in the paper, 30 days before, it's considered. 30 days, so that takes us into December. Also, I've had some discussion with the administration about the changes that have been made for different conditions that were placed on the approval. And I've recommended the administration and the council that while you are considering this, you can consider this, it should also go back to the zoning commissions for them, to give their final, not the final approval, their preliminary approval to the new material that has been submitted. So that also can happen within the next 30 days, so that the process will not slow down. In regards to the election that just happened, I'm not a resident in Mineral Lake, so I didn't get a chance to vote. But I'd like to thank 2 of the councilmen that are not going to be here next year, because I thought that during my time here and their time, I've had good working relations with them, Dave Shaboo and Paul Morris. I always thought that they treated me with respect, and I thought that we had a good working relationship in terms of council persons and law director. And usually I would tell them, in terms of the legal side, both the pluses and the minuses. Okay, and sometimes the minuses, in terms of giving legal advice, involve the chance that you could be sued. So, but ultimately, that's a decision that council has to make in terms of going forward. And they need to have all of the information presented to them so that they can make an informed decision and have throughout the time. Then, as an outsider, but I've been an outsider here for a long time, being in the seat, I was really amazed and impressed by how knowledgeable the voters are, because they passed some difficult things in terms of the amendments to the charter to continue for another 5 years. Another 5 years from next year, the funding of the police, the fire department, and the roads at a higher level. And then on top of that, the voters, when they know what they're doing, it seems, okay, and they make a decision that you can't fool them, past that recreation level, and they have that recreation level, and they trusted council to use that money only for the improvement to Lake Overlook Beach Park, okay, and for no other purpose. And I don't think in the time I've been here, probably in the whole time I've been on Lake, it doesn't go back forever, that there has ever been a 15-year levy that has ever been approved by the voters. Okay, but they approved that for a term of 15 years in order to provide adequate funding stream, because it's going to be necessary for the city to go out and borrow money during that time. So I just think it's a great group out there of voters, and they know what they're doing, and they wanted to save that park, and I'm sure the council, will do that. One last thing about the levy. It was 11 years ago at this time that they were first approved. And I don't remember if any of you that are here were on council at that time. But there was discord in council at that time. And council wanted to put a levy on themselves, you know, these levies, and they didn't have enough votes in order to put it on. It just so happened that during that same time period, the Charter Review Commission meeting, and the Charter Review Commission, which is just 9 people, okay, that are selected from Mentor on the Lake to review how our government works, you know, stepped up and they said, we're going to put these on as charter review amendments so that the voters can make their decision. And the voters 11 years ago passed the first set, and then 5 years later they passed another set, and just this past year they passed another set, okay, in terms of amending. And I want to mention that just from an historical standpoint, is because while there was discord, okay, in council, you know, another group stepped up, okay, and that other group was the Charter Review Committee that I just talked about. And that group starts their meetings, I believe, in January or February of this year. And that group, once again, will be reviewing the city government as a whole in terms of how it's organized and how, you know, it processes the function. And that, once again, is completely open, you know, to the public, so that the public can see exactly what they're doing and that they can offer input if they think they have a better way of running this government. So for example, if the Charter Review Commission would want to put in that there has to be a comprehensive plan, you know, that's passed and approved by council every X number of years, that could become a charter amendment. If people on the Charter Review Committee, you know, think that that's important. If they think that, I hope I'm not offending any council people, but if we want to get rid of ward council people and just go back to everybody being voted at large, they could do that. I mean, they can take a look at the government and determine how it should function, you know, within the parameters of the Ohio Constitution and the Ohio Revised Code. So, with all that being said, I have no report for the next 2 meetings. Thank you.
Thank you. Any members of council have questions for the department heads this evening or administration? Okay. Hearing none, we'll move on to board, committee, and commission reports. Park and Recreation Board met Thursday, October 26th.
Yes, we did. We met. In discussions, we were talking about our next Star Seekers, which we have not set that date yet. We're still waiting for some warmer weather, maybe some brighter weather, and we're going to work with the library and do something down there. We also had some residents come in to speak to us about using or maybe trying to get Parks and Rec involved in a game night. Like for gamers, there was that Gambits over here next to Mark's that closed, and they would hold game nights once a month, and big gamers would come in and play games, and that has closed since. And so we asked how Park and Rec would be involved in that, and we really couldn't come in to see Park and Rec being involved in that type of scenario. So we talked to the gentleman and his son about probably just coming in and renting the hall for a night to see how it goes, see how it takes off. They were talking about doing food and potluck for people to come in. And then we adjourned our meeting.
Ordinance Committee.
Yes, ordinance meant November 2nd, 2023. We talked about the proposed section 1036.04A4 concerning the tree lawn. Mr. Bittner and myself were there in attendance. We proposed that number 4A change to 10 feet from any underground water line or sewer line. Proposed H, minimum 10 feet from the edge of the road. These changes keep distances consistent. The committee agreed to make these changes and send back to the council.
Planning and zoning met on Monday, November 6th.
Yes, we started at 6 p.m. in attendance with Suzanne Cason, Mike Sweeney, Gary Leonard, Brent Moore, Dave Shabu, Dave Eva, Jim Lunder, Michelle Moore, Rob Johnson, Paul Morris. I think I got everybody. It was crazy that night, and several residents. The committee agreed to send the Cranes Landing proposal to council for approval. They had 4 conditions. Number 1, provide the underground storage tank certifications, which they said they had. Number 2, architectural modifications placed in the front door on the lake shore and Andrews side. Internal buildings could remain the same. Number 3, review of restrictions on rentals to be sure they were as strong as legally feasible to discuss investors purchasing for rentals. We asked the law director to do this work. And number 4, development plan language read tax abatement updated to reflect the current manner on the lake ordinance or removal from plan. Multi-unit residents not subject to abatement opportunity. Our next meeting is December 4th, 2023 at 6 p.m.
All right, and community development met on November 9th. Mr. Morris is not here this evening. Did he share his minutes with anyone? I would have been able to myself. Okay, all right. We'll ask for that at the next meeting. All right, it is 7:15. At this time, I'll open this portion to the public to speak. Please step to the lectern. State your name and address for the record. Remember, this is for you to come up and address council, and it's not a back and forth, but we'll be answering questions.
I was so looking forward to a back and forth. Good evening, I'm Jeff Schick at 7533 Salida Road. I had some prepared remarks, but I wanted to say something in advance and thank Mr. Lyons for his observations about where we are at this moment with regard to the city charter, and for the effort to comment and include the comprehensive plan, which I know many people in the council and many people behind me have committed many, many hours to thinking about and dreaming about and talking about and thinking about and dreaming about and talking about and on and on and on. And it's nice to think that it could be a part of an ongoing activity forever in the charter. And I want to thank Mr. Lyons for that. For my remarks, congratulations to the city of Mentor-on-the-Lake for our election day activities and for our results. As always, I found our polls to be both safe and very efficient, and that's just so cool. To know that I can come every single year, every single time I have to vote every single year, I have an opportunity to come to a safe and efficient place, and that's pretty neat. Both sites were full of vigorous and heartfelt rigor for everybody that was on the ballot as an individual and for the issues that were a part of the ballot. And that's really cool democracy in a nice small town, Mentor-on-the-Lake. Local issues, state issues, yes, issue 5. Congratulations. Congratulations to all of us on issue 5, and I have more points on that later. I did have one small personal note. I kind of wish the chief of police was here tonight. I want to dig a little bit. I felt an emptiness in one space at the elementary school because every time I voted, there was a spot inside where now retired John Gilling was always standing there, and you could always have a conversation. That's how close and tight our city is, and it's kind of neat. I suppose our current chief of police was somewhere. I'll find him at the next election day. Between elections and the swearing in January, there are fewer days than we think. And transitions of any kind, as a student in the summer through fall into school, as a parent through fall into school, all of these kinds of transitions are important, and we like to think about them and use them. I have an observation about a transition that I think is important. This is a good time to find ways to bring forward those things that work really well. Those insights from all of the council from the past several years, from all of the administrative procedures from the last several years, and make a commitment to help transition those into the next year. To help move that forward from individual to individual, from committee to committee, from action to action. And we have some really great things that happened this past year that can help us keep looking forward and keep our traction as a exciting city. I know for me, when I go through a transition, I have to work at saying, I need to shed this concept of I've always done it this way. An example of that could be Janelle was so working on that television set on behalf of the citizen who had trouble last week, trying to figure that out. We got to find a better way. And she's already brought in the IT people to help think that through and work that through. So those little things about how we incrementally move our city forward are so important, and I'm really happy to be a part of that. It's also time to reinvest in continuing and improving the work of the other efforts of the city. I talk a lot about economic development and the comprehensive plan and the things that have gone on with the church and the friends. All of those things are valuable, but it's not all that we do. When we hear about the other committee activities, the tremendous work of ordinances, the tremendous work at looking at the stars and finding opportunities for gaming, those kinds of things are so rich. We have to continue to move those forward through these transitions to the new people. That brings me to a really important point, the thing I feel really strongly about. In representing and supporting the constituencies of their wards and the whole city, I believe Mr. Morris and Mr. Shaboo, they gave real distinguished efforts for all of their time and their service for this city, and I want to thank you for that. And now that transitions to Mr. Gray and Dr. Wong. And I congratulate all four for the efforts they made during the campaign and during the election day, and look forward to your support as we transition to the newest level of administration and council in January. It's important that we continue the good work that you've done to help improve our city and bring best practices to the city's processes that they touched in the past and that you'll touch in the future. And today's council meeting was meant to be, I think, a council meeting of the whole. With only 4 here, those other 3 are going to miss some really cool things we're going to say about them. And you. This is an exciting meeting because as a result of the Planning and Zoning Committee activities on Monday last, we have real positive and forward-thinking progress at the efforts of, on behalf of Summers and the property at Lakeshore and Andrews Road. I do believe that Rick Summers' commitment to us to help us look at those buildings and how they face the street and what that looks like and how it represents that cornerstone, that flagship of our community is really important. And it really deserves your best deliberation and studies, and come back with the best ideas and just keep that progress going. It's nice to see this level of progress. My final point is a hearty congratulations to the council, to the administration, and most importantly to the citizens for the issues around the vote on issue 5. It kind of snuck up on us. It was really quite fast when you think about it over the last 2-3 months, but it was a success. It was a great success. On more than one occasion in the last 2 years, as we've had planning meetings about the comprehensive plan, people have said, get a quick win, get a quick win, get a quick win. Who could have thought we'd have a quick win that big? That would be that important. That really deserves our entire community contribution. Every single household in this city will contribute financially to that project. And it behooves all of us as citizens and all of you as council and the administration to actively go after all the best thinking that they have. I'm happy to hear that Mr. Troy and as I call him, Dave Joyce, he doesn't like to be called Congressman Joyce, you know that. He wants to be called Dave. That they want to contribute, that they want to help us move forward. There's an awful lot of experience in this city to help on that project. We look forward to a project that features a stable hillside. It merges smoothly with the existing walls on the east and the west. It provides long-lasting both toe erosion and top erosion along with beach access and great spaces for all of us to enjoy and view that beautiful lake and our wonderful sunsets. I know, in fact, the mayor has already reached out to several citizens asking for citizen support. In fact, he even made a commitment in the newspaper to have the citizens participate. And I think there might be one or two back there that have some experience if you were looking for that too. I'm excited for the future. Personally, I thank Mr. Morris. Personally, I thank Mr. Shambu for your efforts. Additionally, personally, I look forward to Mr. Gray and Dr. Wong's future success on the committee. Thank you.
Any?
Earl Curris, 7523 Salida Road. I kind of want to piggyback a little bit off of what Jeff had just said. As everybody knows, we spent an awful lot of time in our community development meetings to establish a vision for the future, trying to establish a standard for what we want our city to become. And I truly believe with the Summers Group being here, wanting to be part of the city, part of the team, I think it would be a good time for me to state some vision statements that we came up with, that all of us as a group came up with. And there's some things in these vision statements that seem to constantly repeat themselves. So I'll go through all 4 vision statements. The first is a lakefront community encompassing quality residences, small businesses, recreation and hospitality, with the focus on the well-being of its residents. Promotion of Lake Erie waterfront, including dining, shopping, emphasizing the nautical heritage. That was one. The other one was a charming city with well-maintained, attractive housing, capitalizing on access to Lake Erie and embodying a feeling of community, hospitality, and safety. The third one, a charming and vibrant lakefront community encompassing quality residential and small businesses for recreation, hospitality, and the well-being of its residents. A focus on promoting an accessible waterfront, which includes an assortment of dining and shopping, embracing the Midwest nautical heritage. And then the fourth one, a charming and vibrant city with well-maintained, attractive housing and businesses that embody a feeling of community, hospitality, and safety that capitalizes on access to Lake Erie. So there's some key themes here that I think are important to this meeting in the sense that the Summers Group is here, and one of which seems to show itself numerous times, and that is the nautical heritage, the lakefront community, the feeling of community and oneness and quality residence. And so knowing that nautical heritage and that lakefront community is what we want to be when we had all our meetings. I think I doing some research and drilling down what is nautical design and drilling down deeper and deeper and doing Google searches, I was able to find out that really what it is, it's an offshoot of coastal design architecture. And anybody can simply Google coastal design architecture. And what they will find is designs similar to what we want the city's image to be, the attractiveness, the presentation, to put our best foot forward, so that once we establish an anchor, we can build from that anchor. And we're really quite fortunate as a city because we already have an anchor building that we all love, and that is the library. If we were to pick, what building would you want to save? If we tore down everything in the city and started from scratch, what building would you save? It would be the library. We love it. It's beautiful. It represents our heritage and what we're about. So let's build from that. So the next great path for us to build from the library is the Summers Group development plan. It's the next logical step. And done well, other businesses are going to want to follow suit. Good building construction attracts better building construction, which attracts better buildings construction. Just look what's happened on Salida Road for all these years. every time somebody puts a new house up and makes it pretty, the next one down the street wants to get a prettier house. Then the next one, a prettier house. So now we've got the guy who owns Classic Auto and puts a beautiful house. So see, good news follows each other. And the opposite happens if we don't care about our city. If we don't care about our city, then unfortunately bad news follows each other. But we're in a great place because we have summers here. We can do something great for our city. So let's go to coastal design architecture. In Googling it, basically what it says is color schemes that draw inspiration from a rocky beach, including blue, white, green, and gray. So you want to have color schemes that match the rocky beach. Natural stones are used, natural wood, porches and balconies, shutters, shingle siding, clean lines, large windows, metal accent roofs, larger white trim. So this is the ideal state of what is a perfect coastal design architecture. Knowing that there's always going to be cost constraints, because that's every time you build, you're going to have cost constraints. We all know that. So we have to work within the parameters, but come up with creative ways to do it more cost effective. Case in point, we look at the drawing here of the front of, this is facing the street. Some simple design changes to the front of that building can make it pop and make it fit our city. Here's some classic examples. Let's switch to using modern building materials that are now available on the open market. One case, for example, is manufactured stone veneer. Instead of using the traditional bricks that have been around since the 60s and 70s, let's go to coastal design architecture and let's use natural stone. How do you do that cheaply? Manufactured stone veneer. I think Mr. Summers had a slab of that. I know he had one out at the zoning meeting. You can do this cost effectively that way. The shingles, a lot of the new designs with shingles, you can go with vinyl. Instead of going with traditional wood shingles, you can go vinyl. You can get them in shake, you can get them in Cape Cod, hand split, planks, and you can mix and match them. And you could do this with vinyl. So you could do it less, this similar cost to what he's doing now, but again, creating that atmosphere that we want as a city. Adding wide white trim to the ends, to the accents around the roof, the points, just adding white trim that is wide. It will take a standard window and emphasize it. It takes a basic window that's inexpensive. You put a beautiful white trim around it that's extra wide, you'll make that window pop. If you look at the library, look at how they use white trim, in big, bold white trim to make that pop. Again, cheap, inexpensive to do. Summers Group can add that to the feature to their design. So the next thing, metal accents. Metal accents are going a long way now. I noticed that over these doors and the front, they have a very traditional wood frame. You can easily add, and in fact, in one of their other renderings, they actually do add a little overhang over the doors. That's very popular now. It's becoming more and more common that they put an overhang over those doors. And if you make that a metal overhang, like a metal type of material for a roof, it makes it pop. You can also add a porch here and there. You put a front porch on, it gives it the coastal effect. A couple of more things. The shutter styles that you use on the buildings. For the same price, you could switch to a board and batten style shutters instead of this type of shutter style. And again, create the impression we're trying to create. And finally, accent pieces. Gable vents can be circular, they can be oval. You can do all kinds of neat things to create a nautical image with simple gable vent type materials that you can purchase anywhere. So my argument is that I'm very happy they moved the fronts to the street. I think it's so important as a city, as an image, that we look to the next level, which is let's make these buildings pop. Let's make them beautiful. They don't have to spend an awful lot of money to do it, but let's make it happen. That's all I have to say. Thank you so much.
Any other members from the public wishing to speak at this time? Hearing none?
No, one more. Hopefully 17607 Slider Road. I would like to start out with an apology to Mr. Lyons. At the last council meeting, I said some things that were not appropriate because I misunderstood Mr. Lyons' role in the city. My misunderstanding was that I thought that he was more a part of the planning, the future, proactive, and that sort of thing. And Rob Johnson straightened me out. He said, "No, his main function is to keep us out of trouble." And Mr. Johnson said that he's done a great job, and I would have to agree that on that score he's done a great job. So thank you for that, Mr. Lyons. And again, I apologize for my inappropriate behavior.
I never thought I would like to talk, but I do right now.
Thank you. I don't have a lot to add to the current ongoing things. There are just a couple things. One is, as we move forward with the Graves Landing, I'm very happy to see that Summers Group is willing to work with the city, with our skilled people, to upgrade the appearance of the development. Thank you very much for that. The rendition I see here may not be exactly what we want, but it shows your good intentions and willingness to make upgrades and improvements. As a former house builder myself, I will make one criticism that particular is that when you chop off the gable ends of the roof, there's no overhang on the flakes on the ends of the building. It makes it look like one of the cheap Ryan Homes developments such as we have on Lost Nation Road. The development that Ryan put in there, if you haven't noticed, if you want to see something truly ugly, drive down and look by the airport at the flat field that looks like a Monopoly board. And on Monopoly, for those of you who are old enough to remember Monopoly, had all these little boxy houses, just little rectangles with a little pitch roof on, all sitting all around. And that's what the Ryan Homes on that development looks like. They're capable of doing better things than that, but they chose not to on that development. And engineering and structurally wise, as Mr. Cross had mentioned, there is a lot you can do to make the building look special, especially attractive, without adding a lot of money. Putting an overhead on the does cost you a lot of money, but it makes the building look so much more custom and so much more special. And one other thing, I gotta like my treat deep. The only other thing I'd like to end on is that now that we have a certain stability in our city government, the mayor's been reelected, and your experience, Mr. Mayor, counts for a lot. You know the city, you know what you're doing. I believe in many of the people I speak with, you are an educated, intelligent man, and you're capable of doing some very good things for the city. So we look forward to working with you, the committees, city council, to put that vision together, to get a plan, to move towards it. The park revision will be a big part of that. The Summers plan can be something that we're proud of, and there'll be more to come. So I'm looking forward to everyone working as a team.
Any other members from the public wishing to speak?
Do we speak now or do we speak?
Let me close this and then I'll open for your presentation. Hearing none, we'll close this portion at 7:39 p.m. Moving on, we have a presentation this evening by the Summers Development Group. Rick, floor is yours.
We need to formally introduce ourselves, or I just.
If you'd like to, because we have some new people joining us online this evening, if you wouldn't mind.
Greg Summers, the Summers Development Group. Rick Summers, Summers Development Group. I appreciate the opportunity to present tonight. It's been a while since we've been before council, and as everybody's aware, it's been a long process, but we've made a lot of progress, and we appreciate, you know, the public comment. And we're looking forward to discussing that progress and a plan to move this forward.
Okay.
I appreciate Jeff Schick saying thank me, Rick Summers, but this was really a collaborative effort from Planning Commission, the administration, the citizens, and council. Basically, we're going to keep it brief tonight. Basically, we're here to introduce the new plan. I have a few quick comments. One, it's only been, what, a week since we are a planning commission. So we did find a new design, but we did not have the time to have an architect tweak the fronts. We are absolutely committed to looking and doing this coastal design, especially with the colors. Some of the trims that were mentioned. Another thing that was mentioned, landscaping. We can do a lot of landscaping. We will have a new landscaping plan. There's some things that are sent by the new councilman that she introduced us to this coastal landscaping. I was not familiar with it before, but it has a lot of merit, and we're going to continue to look at that. We do have some new colors. We are committed to stone, not brick. That is a cultured stone. I think that we will be introducing a little bit different color, something that has a little more color variation, again, to bring out this coastal colors that were discussed.
The other buildings too that don't front the main roads will also have some stone. They're not shown on it will be a little bit of a different configuration than what's on the main roads, but there will be some stone to accent those units on the interiors and on Park Avenue. Wanted to mention that as well. So a couple notes on the site plan too. The natural evolution of fronting the units onto the main roads resulted in some enhancements that we feel will be great for the site plan overall too. And they're actually, the setbacks are actually going to be, if you see the new plan, they're a little more condensed, and the setbacks have actually increased as well as the open space. I think we're over 50%. So, you know, going a little bit more vertical, but still staying under the, you know, the requirements under the PUD, we feel it's going to be a nice enhancement to the overall plan too. There'll be, you know, a front walk network even beyond where the sidewalk is. People want to, you know, enter their residences from the front. It's shown in a light outline on the plan, but we think that'll really integrate nicely with some landscaping, the internal sidewalk network, you know, the nice fronts of the houses. But as Rick said, all of the color palettes and the stone, that was a priority even before we could make it here tonight. You know, the coastal, the lighter tones, the lighter stone, not brick. Brick's a little dated, so we planned on doing that. We just didn't have the time to do it. But we have those updated renderings in process, so we'll be sharing those shortly. We have a few other things to cover.
Another thing we're looking at, and again, somebody else mentioned it in public, that we also agree with is adding some language to the HOA documents that we will work with Mr. Lyons on and different groups as far as limiting the leasing. I will tell you this, and I think I said it at Planning Commission, that this is absolutely a single family owner occupied project. We're not selling to investors. You have to be owner occupied to buy here. We can do that legally. We need to work through a few legal issues and enforceability issues as far as people renting their units, but we can limit it to a certain percentage as long as people have the opportunity if there is a hardship. So we'll work through that with Mr. Lyons.
And Mr. Shabu, you had mentioned the condition coming out of planning and zoning. So is the law director going to modify and present some language that will be proposed from the city? We just figured it would be a good time to get some clarification on that. Because the way you read it, it was the law director.
I think we was going to communicate that.
Okay. So do you want us to draft some language, Jim, share it with you.
We're an approval body, not a draft. I mean, it's still your documents, you know, but we only approve it from, you know, the city's perspective is all we're doing in terms of the zoning process.
Okay, we're prepared to.
Yeah, we're not gonna tell you that what we're approving is gonna, you know, stop somebody from doing it. We're just doing it from our own particular perspective, that is what we want. And if you think we're wrong, we'll listen to legal argument.
Understood.
But you have to run it through your legal people. And once you do that and they say it's acceptable, you know, then I'll take a look at it and see if it, you know, satisfies planning commission's concern.
We probably will. Appreciate the clarification.
A couple other questions we would like to, we're not pushing, but we've worked on this a while. We're starting to get, we think, towards the finish line and get where people are starting. If we're working together, I think we can get this done. So we would like to ask tonight, if it's possible, to set a public hearing so we can comply. I believe that's a legal requirement, even though a lot of what we said will happen again.
Our question too is, and Mr. Shaboo is on the planning commission. I think Moore was there. You know, the mayor was there. Rick and I would just like some clarification on that too. You know, we have been in front of planning and zoning for a really long time, and they set these conditions to come to you guys now. You know, representing the people, and the chair of the planning and zoning commission said, you know, do we keep this here? Do we send it to council? So, you know, is it based upon the way that they wrote that condition? I mean, is it necessary for us to go back? I mean, I thought they were clear that we, at this point, we're in, if we meet those conditions, we're in front of you guys at this point.
So with the change from the 2 to the 3-story buildings, we would like planning and zoning just to take a look at it and weigh in on that. They will be meeting on December 4th. We're going to schedule a council as a whole meeting to go through the documents, any renderings and anything like that we have. And then we will be scheduling the public hearing, and we'll be discussing that later on in the meeting as to the date that we'll be having the public hearing. So we're trying to do it as efficiently as we can based on posting dates and requirements that we have to follow. In addition to when everybody is meeting, plus potentially having maybe some holiday schedule limitations coming up as well. So hopefully by the end of this meeting, we'll have all the dates planned and ironed out so that everybody will know when all the meetings are and what is happening when.
Understood, appreciate it. That's pretty much what we have for tonight. So it's a work in progress. I would take any questions, or Greg will, or we will, and appreciate your time again tonight.
What is the height on a 3-story building?
We believe that we can stay with within the 35 feet.
Okay.
One concern I have is we might have to lower a roof line to make that. So I think it might be a late thing is we might be at 35'8" on one building, but we can lower the trusses easily. But that may take away from what we're trying to achieve.
The ones that you see that we're gonna update the elevations as drawn, they're like 35'6". The other ones are 34 like in 6 inches. So we're within inches of the 35 feet and can make that adjustment, but they're within inches of it as drawn now.
If you could bring like some scaled drawings to the planning and zoning and have for our meeting as a whole, that would be helpful.
Council, right, override that 35 feet. They can approve something higher. And the reason for 35, you can get a variance from it. I mean, but this is an overall development that council is approving as part of DUD. Council could authorize, 35'8", but 35 is in there now, because of how high the fire truck can get up easily for the ladder system. What my understanding.
All right,
if it looks okay at 35, then you don't have to ask for that. But if it's better at 35'8", that would be ultimately a decision by the planning commission and also.
Those are things that will evolve as we have more time to keep these plans ready for the next meeting.
But the way it's drawn though, we're within, I think the exact dimension is 7 1/8 of an inch of the 35 feet. So we're right there, and the other one I did verify is under 35.
We'll have dimension drawings.
We want those pitches just to look as nice as possible along the main road corridors and, you know, the way that the architecture of those pitches is. But we're within 7 inches, we'll find a way,
Okay,
so.
and I just wanted to know so that we kind of had an idea of what was going on with that.
For one other item, sort of thought you guys would bring it up, but the CRA is my understanding, an issue. In terms of what you believe your need is in terms of, you know, the tax rate, whether it's 15 years at 22% or 10 years at 100%. So I think there's currently an ordinance pending before council. So I think that will go at the same time. I've always understood that was an important part of the development, trying to get that extra economic boost.
Can we discuss, are we at liberty to discuss that tonight?
I would delay that to council as a whole because we only have 4 members here this evening,
Okay.
so I would like to have everyone present so that they can hear it firsthand from you and we can ask questions and address that accordingly.
The only comment we'll make on that is that, you know, any proposal that we are bringing forward that we do need to make this successful project would make the city in whole, it's in entirety, as if tax abatement was not in place. So we can get into the
For the city.
So the city's portion, you know, even if there was tax abatement in place, the way we're structuring this, the city would be getting 100% of the revenue of what is if there was no tax abatement in place.
So it'll be done in what's called a payment in lieu. So it's done in other cities. It's been done. It's part of the economic development tools that are available under the state of Ohio revised code.
So are you talking a tip?
No,
Like a 41 tip?
no, not at this time. I think the CRA.
I've never seen a payment in lieu on a CRA, but I mean, we're willing to listen. I'm not trying to be police.
Like our great brother, my other son Ryan, that's all he does is tip and tax-based CRA work.
Yeah.
And what you do is,
Well, we could talk about that. But
yes,
it's something that we have to be looked at.
okay, and we'll give you the underlying information, how it's been done elsewhere. But I think the most important thing that Greg said is, and we've done a projection that we have and we'll present it when it's the appropriate time. But at this time, we think that this will have full build out in 2 years at the most. That this will generate approximately 22,000.
That's 42.
Excuse me. It's not very right. 40,200.
42,000 in January. Fully built out. So it's a meaningful number. And we do need it to make the project work. So we're hoping that we can work with, you know, council and city and the administration to find a way that works for everybody to make this happen. So we appreciate the time this evening. Any other questions from?
Any other questions from council this evening?
Do you want to take any audience questions for us tonight?
We will open to the public later on,
Okay.
and if they have any questions, we can talk about that then, or we can have them prepare them for when we do our council as a whole.
Thank you.
As well.
Great. Thank you.
Legislation before council this evening. Clerk, could you please read resolution number 2023-R-33 by its title, please?
Resolution number 2023-R-33. A resolution granting preliminary approval to the planned unit development, PUD, that is provided for in chapter 1255 of the codified resolutions for the property described as permanent parcel numbers 19A093B0000150, 19A093B 0000160, 19A093B 0000170, 19A 093B 000180, 19A 093B 000190, 19A 093B 000200, 19A 093B 000210, and 19A 093B 000750.
Does any members of council have any questions or comments on this resolution this evening? And resolution 33 coincides with ordinance 025 that is on the agenda this evening, which is for the PUD and the rezoning. So that will be delayed for the public hearing as well. Those two will be connected. Resolution number 2023-R-34. Clerk, could you read that by its title, please?
Resolution number 2023-R-34, a resolution requesting the Lake County Auditor to make advance payments of taxes pursuant to Ohio Revised Code 321.34 and declaring an emergency.
Any questions or comments from council this evening for resolution 34? Hearing none. Ordinance number 2023-0-07, third reading, amended. This is assigned to council as a whole. Ordinance number 2023-0-22, third reading, and this is assigned to the ordinance committee. Has ordinance committee voted to send this back to?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Seeing that we only.
I'm assuming Mr. Bittner had taken care of that. Maybe.
Mr. Bittner is not with us this evening,
so,
and he's the chair, so we will delay discussion on that till the next meeting. Okay. Ordinance number 2023-0-23, clerk, could you read that by its title, please?
Ordinance number 2023-0-23, second reading. An ordinance amending codified ordinance 893.04, exemptions for community reinvestment area.
Due to the number of council members present this evening, this will move to third reading. Do any members of council this evening have any questions regarding ordinance 23? Ordinance number 2023-0-24. Clerk, could you read that by its title, please?
Ordinance number 2023-0-24. An ordinance providing temporary appropriations for current expenses and other expenditures of the city of Mineral on the Lake, Ohio for the year ending December 31st, 2024, and declaring an emergency.
Does any member of council have any questions or comments on ordinance 24 this evening?
I have it. Yes. Should that be December 31st, 2023?
No, because what this will do is take us into 24. Temporary appropriations for 24.
Okay.
For the first 3 months that we don't have.
The finance.
Approved. Yes,
Okay.
correct.
Thank you. I just wanted clarification.
Yep.
That will move to second reading. And ordinance number 2023-0-25. Clerk, could you read that by its title, please?
Ordinance number 2023-0-25. An ordinance rezoning permanent parcel numbers 19A 093B 000150, 19A 093B 000160, 19A 093B 000170, 19A 093B 000180, 19A 093B 000190, 19A 093B 000200, 19A 093B 000210, and 19A 093B 000750 from Business District 1 and or Single Family District D to the zoning classification of a planned unit development, PUD, that is provided for in Chapter 1255 of the Codified Ordinances.
So this, if we have a motion this evening, that will be set for a public hearing. Resolution 33 and ordinance 25 will be referred to committee as a whole and planning and zoning commission. Mr. Lyons, do we have enough to do the motion for the public hearing this evening?
Yes.
Okay. We can address that in the new business. Okay. Right. For ordinance 25, any questions or comments this evening from council members? Under old business, we didn't have any items for discussion this evening. Under new business, do we want to have discussion of the public hearing? Do we have a motion to schedule a public hearing? Why don't we do that under announcements? We can do that under announcements and setting of the meetings.
I do have a new business I'd like to bring up.
Okay.
Several years ago, we had an opportunity through a grant to get an elevator for Manor Beach Park. The plan was, restaurant with an elevator. Most of us have looked at the renderings of what that would potentially look like. And I've recently had discussions where I feel confident that between our city council and Manor City Council, that we can negotiate the purchase of Manor Beach Park. And I think with everything that we're developing, we're evolving, we want to make this a destination. And I think, from what I understand, that Manor would be open to negotiate, turning, us purchasing the park at some point. I think that would, potentially generate, if we get a restaurant in there, we may have to, again, the elevator at the time was $170,000. And that really was the sticking point of, why we couldn't do it. Understanding that Manor had put money into the erosion control, into new HVAC, into a new roof. So they kind of set the structure where that building is safe. And I just think now would be the time that we get together, both city councils, and figure out how we can get this done. I looked at, as a 2024 activity was.
Look forward to hearing more about that.
Yes.
It is 8:03. We will open this portion to the public. Anybody wishing to speak, please step to the lectern, state your name and address.
I'm Jeannie Wong, 7573 Salida Road. Thanks very much, everybody. I understand that not everybody's here, but I didn't want to let the opportunity go, and I did want to publicly acknowledge the work that Mr. David Chabot and Mr. Paul Morris have done in their commitment to service to our community over the last 8 years. So thank you, gentlemen. I am also, numbers aside, we are missing some folks today. I think it is the right thing to discuss the information that's been presented new since planning and zoning and what we've all been talking about with all members of the council. As you know, planning and zoning brought it back out to council with the idea of putting it in front of our elected officials, mainly because of the roles and positions in representing a larger swath of the city population than sits on planning and zoning, and because of the authority vested in the council to be decision makers for all of us. So it sort of would not make sense to take action when the information hasn't been presented in front of all of the decision makers. So I think that that's appropriate. I don't think we should be afraid to take a little bit of time at this step. I know there's been a 2-year delay and you guys have been really anxious. This has really been dragging out, but we made a lot of progress recently. So I think it's clear that we're coming toward agreements. But we shouldn't be afraid to take a little bit of time to make sure that we have satisfactory renderings, that the drawings, that what we see, that what we're going to get is satisfactory to all of us. So I thank the council for taking the time to do that. Appreciate it.
Please.
Be nice though. Susan Schick, 7539 Salida Road. So I've been coming to the council meeting here for about the last 2.5 years. Never did this before, and I've learned quite a bit in the last 2.5 years coming to these meetings. And one of the things that was mentioned quite a while back was having a city plan. It's been mentioned now already here tonight a few times, which I can't believe some of the good stuff I'm hearing here, and I'm really excited. So I had put this together even before I heard all this, what everyone else was saying here tonight. And it was about a week ago that I came across an article and I shared it with everyone here at council. I don't know if you all have seen it. I said it yesterday. I sent it to your email. Forgotten to do it. The author of this article, it was all about cities. And so the first line of the article that really grabbed my attention was a question. The question was, how is it that some small cities and towns are prospering, while many others are suffering disinvestment and loss of identity? So that grabbed my attention. I said, well, I gotta read this article. The author of this article was Edward McCone, and he is an analyst for planning and land use. He's been in the business for over 30 years. He's written over 18 books on this subject, so I felt like he definitely had some credence. So I'm just going to briefly, because I know the article's a little bit long, and I hope you guys all get an opportunity to read it. I thought it was very well written, and I felt like it was almost written just for our little city here in the Round Lake. So just to summarize, he said that he made the statement that after working in hundreds of communities in all regions of the country, that he has come to the conclusion that successful communities share at least 3 of the following characteristics. So there's only 8 here, and I'll just briefly go through each one of these. So the first one was having a vision for the future. Again, it's been already mentioned here tonight. Earl Curris, he already mentioned the 4 different vision statements that we've already come up with, some of the residents here. Having a successful company, business, anything needs a plan. Like my own career, I had to have a plan. It's not going to be successful if you don't have a plan. Inventory your community assets. So I would ask, what is it here in Mentor on the Lake that's our asset? I know what that answer would be pretty quickly. Just leave that all for you guys to answer it for yourself. Once you've decided what our assets are, we're going to take and shape and plan around these existing assets. So hearing that this levy has, that's all good news. You're like, that lake is a huge asset for us. So getting a good plan over there is critical. Using education and incentives, not just regulations. Regulations to be our ordinances, and it protects you from bad development, but it rarely is going to protect you, or it's rarely going to bring in the best of everything. So educating your community and to encourage citizen involvement, since that's what's been going on now for 2 years here. Our citizens have the right to choose their city's future, and they really need to know where their choices are. So going forward on this park project, I'm excited to see what the city comes up with in developing and fixing up the park there. The other comment that I had here about educating the city is just how we can get more information out to our citizens in our city. Hearing that now we're talking about redoing the website, that's fantastic. I love hearing that. I always cringe because I would go on there. It was never up to date, so I'm super happy to hear that. You know, that would be one way of getting information out to our citizens. Pick and choose among your development projects. Successful communities have expectations. The biggest impediment to better development in many communities is a fear of saying no to developer. Community leaders are afraid to place demands for fear a developer will walk away. So, this gentleman also states another developer in his article, his name was Bob Gibbons, and his comment was that when a chain store developer comes into a town, they usually come in with 3 different designs. Will be A, B, or C. What ends up getting built depends on the pushback that developer is going to get from its residents and elected officials. So, you know, unfortunately, this dollar store is coming. I'm hoping we're getting one of the better plans. I'm not quite sure exactly what that plan looks like, but I'm hoping that's the case. Cooperate with your neighbors for mutual benefit. So my question on here, is there any discussion right now with Benner regarding the Park and Andrews Road? Okay, everything answered. Pay attention to your place, because looks count. A successful community pays attention to where they put their development, how it's arranged, and what it looks like. Your city's uniqueness gives you a competitive edge. So I just think about my job took me all over the United States for 3 years, and there were some charming, lovely little communities I was in, and I just think to myself, God, I would love to swim around like in one of those communities that people that want to go to, not just live there. And you need strong leaders and committed citizens. And as far as I'm concerned, I would say that we have that. So we're off to a good start in that regard. And as far as the naysayers, because I do hear that sometimes, that you know, the people that are always going to say, well, we can't do that. That's not going to work. It's going to cost too much. There's always going to be that. But hopefully, you'll agree that hopefully we can say yes to some of these projects and move forward and make Benner on the Lake a place to live and work and to also visit. Okay. So I don't get the opportunity, if you haven't already, to read that article in full. I thought it was really well written. Okay.
Any other members from the public this evening?
Earl Harris, 7523 Salida Road. I do have a couple of other things I'd like to talk about. The first, I want to congratulate everybody for an election that was you know, it was interesting, it was invigorating, there was some change made, winners and losers like in everything, but I believe that we've all grown and learned from it, and I think we're all better as a result. I mean, getting our city stronger and better is the best thing in the world. And Dave, I look forward to you sitting next to you and fighting with council. I look forward to, you know, everybody all working as a group. Because there's three legs to this stool. There's council, there's the administration, and there's the public. And one leg falls down and the stool collapses. So we all need to continue to keep challenging each other, because that's how we become a better city. So with you being on my team now, or our team, or the team of citizens, and I think it's going to be fun. And then we're going to take some citizens and put them up there, and then we're going to have more fun. You know, we're going to challenge each other. You know, and we challenge the mayor, and the mayor is shining. So thank you for the actions you're taking. I do have another challenge, since I am on the challenging side of life. CT Consultants contract is coming up December 31st, 2023. I am asking council, and I am asking the administration and the law director to please take a hard look at this contract. And on page 3, section 2, please strike out the following line when you read up this agreement. And this line, I'll read the entire section too, it's only a few sentences. The city agrees to retain the services of the engineer during the term of this contract. This is where I want it stricken. To the exclusion of all other engineers, other firms or individuals. And then you can continue, strike that, then go, and further agrees to pay the engineer for such professional services as herein stated under the following terms and conditions. I have no problem hiring CT consultants. I have no problem having them as our professional. They do a great job. I have a real hard time not being able to challenge them, not be able to hold them accountable on their pricing and their costs. And if we strike that line, it gives power back to the city to decide what, if we want CT or not. Is CT giving us good numbers? Great, we'll go with them all along. If they're comparable, go with CT. I have no problem with that. But if they're way out of line, the city should have the right to look. It's our money. To give one, you know, I don't like to give an open checkbook to anybody. I like to challenge my contractors and people that work for me. And the same concept. CT should not have carte blanche on our money. So I really would like that stricken. If, and the law director, it's up to you as well. If it cannot be stricken, I have one that you could also add a line in exchange for that, which is the city reserves the right to work with other engineers, either firms or individuals. That line can be added. So strike that. You can add one or you can strike it, and that's up to administration and legal. But I do believe that that would put more power back into the hands of Men on the Lake to use our money wisely. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
And President,
Permission to speak, Mr. Lyons. Yeah.
Can I comment on that?
Yes.
The city can strike, it's not a law director determination. What the substance of a contract is something that is negotiated, you know, between the city and the other party. So if the city is certainly welcome to talk to the CT to see if they'll agree to other language. If they don't agree, then we won't have CT. I think CT has been our engineer for at least 40 years, at least at that long. So you can put any term that you want in a contract, but the other side has to agree on it. So it would end up being, first of all, an administrative determination if they want to make that decision. And since the council approves the contract and the hiring of CT every year, the council can weigh in on it. Normally, council doesn't get involved in that type of situation where they review, you know, that type of language, but they could. Okay? If they decide that they want what was suggested, then they could. But then I think that we wouldn't have an engineer. We wouldn't have somebody that we can call up and we know that they're going to respond to us. And as I understand the market, there's not a lot of engineers that are providing this kind of service in Lake County. But maybe there are. I just wanted, before everybody goes home that's out in the audience, to think that we're not mindful of those kind of issues, because any contract is a matter of negotiation. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of the public wishing to speak this evening?
Scott Wilhelm, 7573 Salida. Much like I think has been said this evening, in coming to council meetings now for the last couple of years, along with planning and zoning ordinance committees and other groups, I've learned a lot about city process, Ohio revised code, ordinances that apply to city throughout the state, legal matters, housing development, things that I, as a physician, I never knew anything really about. And so I think education is for each and every one of us is critical to the ongoing learning process and making things work and making things feasible. So that's kind of the first part of it. But the other part and parcel that goes along with that, I think, is the thing that has been discussed many times that, community members have always been interested in and asking for this partnership and clarity. And in the last few months, I have seen more of that happening on a regular basis, and it has been incredibly rewarding to see and to watch and to have it activate. You know, in regards to the Menor Beach project, Mayor Eagle was interviewed by the News Herald right out on the day after the ordinance, or the day after the levy passed. And you know, they asked him what the plans were for the project, and he stated that, you know, we'll be reviewing options and things like that. But in the very next sentence in the article, he also said that he was going to ask the opinion of the public and what the public was interested in, because this is the money that is coming from the taxpayers of this city. That is partnership, and that is leadership, and those are things that we appreciate. And so that's great. And then when we talk about partnership with potential business partners, as Jeff Schick brought up, and really looking to bring in new business to the city, Summers Group is bringing new business into the city. And again, I see partnership that has developed dramatically within the last couple of months, and really even within just the last month, in the last few weeks. And this is what's going to advance our city. This is what's going to bring us together. This is what's going to build the future. And this is what's going to allow us to create what we all want. And I think that that master plan that has been brought up is going to be an essential overriding component, and also the ongoing work to the city charter. And again, I thank the city and the mayor for appointing myself to the charter committee. I look very forward to working on that and working for the city and working with ongoing partnerships. So thank you.
First off, I'm very enthusiastic about the idea of buying that park. I invited, you have initiated a conversation with the city of Menor. I think anybody I know in the city would be in favor of that and helping to work towards it in whatever way is necessary. That would be an amazing accomplishment. Number two, I've only been here 34 years, from CT engineering was retained when I got here. I don't know if the current contract is the same contract that was in place at that time, but if I had to guess who wrote that contract, I would say it was written by CT engineering. I've never seen such a lopsided contract in my life of any kind. It basically gives CT engineering a license to do whatever they want, no recourse by the city, charge whatever they want within the very generous guidelines of that contract, which I have read in detail. Oh my God, how do I get a contract like that for anything? So the other thing relevant to that is, it's been pointed out by the mayor and the city council, that when we're looking to do business with an outside entity, we have to go for bids. Why isn't that true of how we obtain our city council engineering, our consultant? Considering the number of projects that I've been aware of, if not directly involved in, involving CT, I can say that they are very consistent in one aspect. They are very consistent on being extremely expensive. I'm not going to say they gouge, I'm not going to say that, but I am going to say for the services they render, they are very, very low compensated. Tax abatement, $42,000. It's not zero. I still don't understand how it's not going to come out of my pocket, but I will be interested in the public hearing to understand better how that works. To put in perspective, myself and 3 other residents on three of several other residents on Salida Road together pay over $50,000 a year in taxes. So $42,000 for 30 residents doesn't sound like a whole heck of a lot of money. What is that? What's 30? That's about $1,300 a year. I pay that much every month. I'm not sure why would we want to get every penny we can? This tax abatement thing, and I understand profitability. We want the buildings to be nice. We want the Summers Group to make a reasonable and fair profit. That's capitalism. I'm for it. The other thing, to take one of the mayor's words, which I liked a lot, and I want to thank you for that, Mr. Mayor, it's the word destination. In years gone by, Mentor on the Lake was a destination. There was a rail line that ran from downtown Cleveland right out close to here. Doesn't exist anymore. We had a hotel on Salida Road and Lake. We had the amusement center. We had the best beach possibly on all of Lake Erie, a fantastic beach. I'm hoping that our vision and our plan to achieve the vision is going to allow us to reestablish Mentor on the Lake as a destination, not just a nice place to live, but a place that people want to come to live. They want to come to visit. They want to raise their family here. And we do have some assets to capitalize on. Certainly Lake Erie is a huge asset. And with the mayor's leadership, we're going to make good use of that opportunity.
Any other members of the community wish to speak this evening?
Madam Interim President, can I just clear up a couple of things again?
Sure.
So there,
before entering.
We all have the same knowledge base. $24,000, I think that the Summers Group was talking about. 42,000 was the portion of the increase in the value of that land attributed to the buildings that would be paid to Mentor on the Lake, not for the entire taxes on that building. So it's my understanding that the taxes and citizens across the board in Mentor on the Lake pay approximately 24% of their real estate tax bill goes to the city of Mentor on the Lake. Almost all of the rest goes to the school. Some go to the county, some go to the library. So that's, I think that's what their estimate is. And they're saying, I don't quite know how they do it, but tell me what they have to say, is that they're going to try to protect that amount so that the city is not out any money, but instead that savings that would go to the homeowners that would make those homes more sellable wouldn't be paid to the schools for whatever period that abatement is. In regards to CT, and I'm not sitting here being an apologist for CT, but the city controls what CT charges based on the projects that we give them, okay? And it's also based on the initial contract that we signed, that my recollection is at an hourly rate with a small retainer that gives us the right to call them up and to get answers to everyday questions. But for projects in Overlook Park, they charge based on that we hire them, okay, to do it, based on whatever their amount is, times a multiplier effect, which I always remember it being 2.15. I had many conversations with the former engineer, Jim Sales, who was here for years and years and years. And that's and then they charge different rates, for the different people who do it, but it's billed hourly based on that base rate that we get. So in terms of gouging, I haven't ever heard that they have got that are on the lake, or as that brought to my attention. People can have their own view of it. I just wanted to have that. I mean, the council, the administration wants to look at their contract and renegotiate it. They think it's not fair. They can do that. They can try to invite other people to do that. But men around the lake also can invite other people to be the law. Okay, I don't know. I get appointed every year. Okay, is what I do. So if there's somebody out there better that people know, have at it. Okay, so I won't come and sit and listen. Okay, the way that Dave Shabu has. Okay.
Thank you, sir. At 8:29, we will close this portion to the public. Moving on to announcements and settings of meetings. Planning and Zoning Commission will be meeting on December 4th at 6 p.m. The next agenda meeting for council will be held on Tuesday, November 21st at 6 p.m. And that's getting moved up because of Thanksgiving holiday being that week, agenda. And then our next regular scheduled council meeting will be on Thursday, November 28th at 7 p.m. I'm sorry, Tuesday, November 28th at 7 p.m. I apologize. All right, so, do I have a motion to schedule the public hearing? Well, let's go about this. So we need to talk about the motion for the public hearing. We need to discuss potential dates to meet as council as a whole. And then looking at the month of December, the 2nd December council meeting would fall on December 26th, the day after Christmas. So if we want to have discussion about will we be having that meeting, or will we be foregoing that meeting and having our first meeting of January. And then we can talk also about scheduling the organization meeting, which is typically the first Tuesday. The organization meeting for January. Right. Yes. So, where do we want to start? I say we take one at a time. One at a time. All right. So, the committee as a whole, Mr. Johnson reached out to me from his vacation, and would like his suggestion. My suggestion is that we have our council as a whole meeting December 5th at 7 p.m. Which would allow us to get some feedback from that December 4th planning and zoning meeting about the proposals. Sounds good to me. Okay. So we'll have council as a whole December 5th at 7 p.m. Okay. So that we can properly set the public hearing. I'll open the floor to discussion about the December 26th council meeting.
December.
It would be December 26th.
Day after Christmas.
Day after Christmas. Day after Christmas.
Wanted to talk about leaving it, not having it, and
typically council has chosen in years past to forego or suspend that meeting. So
you want to do the public hearing.
Well, if we have our meeting on the 5th, we won't have, the 26th is still not enough days. You have to have 30 days.
Right. From today.
From the 5th. From our committee of the whole meeting on December 5th.
So Desiree, you could set the public hearing 30 days from today.
Okay.
Today being the 4th. So you gotta get it in the paper. December 6th. I know that's not a Tuesday.
No.
Yeah, that's a Saturday.
That's yes.
You're good. have it on a Saturday, it doesn't have to be.
I'm not available on the
Oh,
16th.
you know, I'm
Oh, yeah,
saying,
yeah,
but it doesn't have to be at a regular schedule.
Right, right.
It can be at a special meeting.
yeah. Special meeting, right.
So the tentative council, the second and fourth Tuesday of December are December 12th and December 26th. Correct. So even if we can't, 28 days is December 12th, so that doesn't work for a public hearing. So well, discussion is open. Do we meet the 26th?
I would say we forego the 26th unless something comes up, we can hold a special meeting.
I may have company that week, so
Right, I know I will have company that week as well.
So what are you saying? Would you go into January?
We could schedule the public hearing for our first regularly scheduled council meeting in January, which would be January 9th.
Yeah.
And you could pass it. It could be passing, because it would give you the 3 readings.
Right.
Candidates at that time. Okay.
Yes. Okay.
Or the idea then of a special after the 16th, you know, I think it would apply.
So that would be the week of the 18th through the 22nd, which is that week right before the holidays. And I don't know, Mr. Johnson, Mr. Bittner, Mr. Morris, I don't know what their schedules are, so I don't want to commit somebody to something. We will have 2 council meetings between now and then. I guess. If we needed to. If we advertise it, say within the next week. And we set the public hearing for January 9th, then it has to wait till January 9th. It can't be moved up, correct?
It can't be moved. I mean, it can be moved up, but it's still at 30 days. You could call a special meeting for Friday to move it up. I mean, but it's just, you gotta have that 30 days.
Yeah.
Mr.
Mr. Summers?
Is it appropriate for us to comment?
Yes, please.
I think it would be wise to move it to January, so we all have time to get this done and to do it right. And to, as much as if we'd all like to get it done, what we've seen, I think it makes a lot more sense to schedule that meeting for the, I believe, January 5th is a Monday.
The planning and zoning meeting is December 4th, and we can have our council as a whole on December 5th, and then we would have the public hearing on January 9th.
I think that's a better idea. A couple of weeks aren't gonna matter, let's do it.
Okay. Thank you. And I was more comfortable with January 9th myself.
And again, to Dr. Wong, her comments too, just, you know, don't push. We should just take our time and have everything in hands and give the Summers Group their time to get us the details as well. So I would agree. Absolutely.
For the council as a whole meeting on Tuesday, December 5th, would it be appropriate for the Summers Group to be at that?
Yes, to answer any questions that council has had.
Okay.
If there's any, when we talk about the, verbiage for the, HOA for the rental units, if that's available by then, we could talk about that, or if we have any questions about what that's gonna look like, we could ask those. And
that date?
December 5th at 7 p.m.
It's the day after the planning and zoning.
We'll have some language.
And we can also talk about the tax abatement issue, the tax abatement conversation. All right. December 26th meeting. Well, before we move on to,
I think we said we were gonna forgo unless we need a special.
Yeah,
meeting.
do we need a motion? Do we have a motion to cancel? They just are, is it cancel or suspension, sir? What's the correct wording?
I'm sorry, I was talking important legal matters. Okay. Over here. Advising over, right, yeah, I'm sorry, what was the question?
Would it be suspending the council meeting or forgo? What's the correct verbiage to?
Oh, for the 26th?
26th, yes.
What do we call it, we're just canceling it.
Okay. All right. We have a motion.
Yeah, I'll second it.
We have a motion by Mr. Lunder, second by Mr. Shaboo to cancel the December 26th council meeting. Clerk, could you call the roll, please?
Yes. Mrs. Moore,
Aye.
Mrs. Thompson,
Aye.
Mr. Shaboo,
Aye.
Mr. Lunder.
Aye.
All right. Organizational meeting. We want to have discussion for the organizational meeting for January. It's usually the first Tuesday, which would make it January 2nd, 2024.
And I would say since both candidates are
Sorry,
here, we need to weigh in on their dates for them as well to make sure that that date works.
Tuesday, January 3rd, I'm sorry.
No, Tuesday, January 2nd.
Tuesday, January 2nd.
The day after New Year's, maybe.
Yes.
I'm looking at the wrong
You'll
calendar.
be at it.
You'll be out of town.
Maybe out of town, so yes.
Do you know when you'll be returning?
By the end of that week, certainly.
By the end of that week.
So maybe Thursday,
Let
right?
me pull up the calendar here.
Because we just like to have it done before the first council meeting, which is at
Sure.
January 9th.
Right.
Do you know if you will be back Thursday, January 4th?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
What time?
Would 7 p.m.
Sure.
January 4th work?
Mr. Gray?
Mr. Gray? Mr. Lunder?
Yes. Mayor?
Mayor?
Yes.
The rules.
To the agenda for
Okay.
Will you be having the swearing in before the meeting, or are going to do that in a separate time?
Do you want to do the swearing in prior to the organization meeting that evening? And then we can move into the organization meeting, sir?
Yeah, I mean, we'll do 7, you know, we'll be done before any by 5 after 7.
Okay.
Yeah, that's good.
So we'll have our organizational meeting scheduled for January 4th, 2024 at 7 p.m.
Can I say one more thing in terms of the swearing in? Since we have two new council people that I don't think have ever been involved in being sworn in as a public official, but if you have your own person that you want to have swearing you in, instead of a judge or, you know, somebody who's qualified or get an oath, then you can have that person. It doesn't have to be done by the mayor or that's.
And then any committees will,
We won't know until.
will Park and Recreation be meeting in November?
No, we were not meeting in November, were we?
Yes, yeah.
We are.
Okay.
Yeah.
We moved it to the 30th. And was that a Thursday?
Yep.
30th?
Yeah.
So Park and Recreation will be meeting November 30th at
That's
6:30 p.m. Any other committees or commissions scheduled to meet?
Oh, Board of Zoning Appeals will meet the 20th of November at 7 p.m.
And then moving on to the public hearing, do I have a motion to schedule the public hearing needed for the zoning change in 2023-0?
What date did we?
For January 9th, 2024 at 7 p.m.
33 and 25.
Yes,
For the public hearing.
yes.
Okay.
That'll include 2023 R-33 and 2023 O-25. We have a motion to schedule the public hearing. Do we need a motion? Do we need a motion? That's all.
Yeah,
Yes,
traditionally, we've always done it.
I'll make the motion for the public hearing for January 9th, 2024. At our regular scheduled council meeting.
I have a motion from Mrs. Thompson to schedule the public hearing January 9th, 2024 at 7 p.m. for resolution 33 and 2023-O-25. Do I have a second?
Sorry.
Do I have a second motion?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Lunder. Clerk, could you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Moore,
Aye.
Mrs. Thompson.
Aye.
Mr. Shaboo,
Aye.
Mr. Wonder,
The public hearing is scheduled for January 9th, 2024 at 7 p.m.
Thank you very much.
Do I have a motion for adjournment?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion made by Mrs. Thompson, second by Mr. Lunder. Will you call the roll, please, clerk?
Mrs. Moore,
Aye.
Mrs. Thompson.
Aye.
Mr. Shaboo,
Aye.
Mr. Lunder.
Aye.
This meeting is adjourned.